Hi everyone, I'm Gina Minardi and I'm a licensed therapist who got fed up with therapy. This is a one-woman show about my journey of finding the spaces between non-traditional approaches of healing. What I learned is that there's no one right way to heal, and you truly are your best resource. Therapists and healers are meant to support you on your path, but they don't have all of the answers. You do. This show is about the spaces between laughter, tears, thoughts, ego, soul, messy growth, and moments of joy. It's about personal liberation, inner knowing, and the tools that get you there. I will cover topics that make many of us uncomfortable and interviewing people who are willing to go there. I've spent thousands of hours listening to human beings navigate their life story, from rehabs in Malibu to homeless shelters in East LA, and now my private practice. It has been some of the most profound, painful, and beautiful moments in my life. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's episode, I sit down with Feng Shui expert Patricia Lohan. She is an author, coach, healer, and helps people who want to dream more wildly, live more vibrantly, and give back generously. We talk about the necessity of softening, slowing down, and creating space in your life. And when you do, a river of flow energy opens up. Patricia talks about the many times in her life when something would just fly out of her mouth unknowingly, which would be the unconscious manifestation of the next big shifts in her life. We, of course, talk about getting your home into a space of energetic alignment and balance to open up creating more of what you want in your life and how you want to feel. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spaces Between. I am delighted today to have Patricia Lohan on the show. Patricia, how are you today?
I am doing just great. Thank you so much.
Okay. You know, I wasn't sure if I was going to ask this question right off the bat, but I think I'm going to because we're wrapping up on 2021 and about to launch into 2022. So for you, what has 2021 been for you? As we all know that 2020 was this Herculean, intense year. 2021 has brought its own elements. What have you kind of learned the most about yourself in 2021?
Wow. 2021 was a big year of transformation for me, and what I really tapped back into my heart. I stripped away a lot. Like, I've definitely been on a very, very fast-paced, fast-charged, huge growth in my business and in my work and in my life. Was going at like turbo speed. And in 2021, it slowed down. I dropped into my heart, and yeah, it just softened. So I've softened a lot. It's been absolutely beautiful. Really. I did a lot of work like on of just like unconscious, like recognizing and seeing a lot of like unconscious patterns, behaviors, things that have been kind of holding me back, and that's just been really beautiful. And seeing how I've been very much operating from a more I don't know whether it was a little bit of like that kind of lower driven, like push energy, and moving away from that into a much more surrendered, like joyous love energy. So there feels like a really big shift in me in this year. So that feels really, really good. And it's been, like we just talked about turning 40 this year. I turned 40 this year, and around my birthday, I ended up just like saying no to everything and just, no to a party, no to all the things, just no to all the work, and stripped away a lot, and then just took things back from a different place and doing them from a very different energy as well. So that's been really revelatory and amazing.
Yeah. I mean, as I was saying to you, listening to your turning 40 as I did as well. And interestingly enough, I did 40 so differently, which was I really didn't listen to my intuitive self. And I had this big party and this big to do. And really, it was kind of more, I think, what society or people have an expectation of, like, you're turning 40, have the big shebang. And oh, wow, I learned a lot from that. I learned, I kind of had a whole month afterwards of integrating and going into how I went against myself. And I went into this deep space of silence. And it was so interesting listening to your podcast on this, because from that space, just creating more spaciousness, more silence, more intentionality. So when I listened to yours, I resonated so deeply with, oh yeah, like, just do things differently. And in your episode, it was more about approaching your business with kind of this softening and spaciousness and opening up. So yeah, I think it's important. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think one of the big things is learning to do things a little bit differently is what I've been we're moving through right now. I have an amazing team that support me, that help grow our business. And we went back to, for the first time ever, we came together and had a big planning meeting for the year ahead. And that feels so different. It feels so much more collaborative. It feels more supportive. We were going to do this kind of part of the plan was to think about what's our raison d'etre, right? Obviously I do feng shui. I help people. We help people balance their homes, bring in all the good stuff. But what came to the core that we were going to do this exercise on the third day or the second day of the planning, around the main focus for our business, and it just kept coming. The same word kept coming up all the time. It was it's our community, it's our community, it's our community. It's not us, it's them. It's the people who are called to work with us, and that has to be our focal point. Everything we need to do needs to center around that. And the question, is it helping them? So everything we're doing, is it helping the people who come into our world? And that, for me, it was magical to have all of the team, not everybody, but kind of the main key people converse about RT, about that, and it all coming back to that core. So it feels really different. And it feels really different to have that good support, but also this kind of plan, and in a way more steady, calm, aligned, intentional way.
Yes, to those points, calm and aligned and intentional. And do you find, because I find there's so much more flow in life when there is sort of this calmness and slowing down and creating the spaciousness, that there really is this river that opens up from that space.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I was definitely so I've experienced this real flow state many years ago when I moved to India and kind of stepped off the world into India and yoga teacher training and open to all that was like a true surrender experiment experience where everything just came in front of me. I didn't have to do anything. It was very effortless. And then I came back to Ireland and set up my business and was running a very different kind of business. And that business was really led from that place of just the people, the things all came in. And I had this kind of moment this year when I realized, hang on a minute, this current, iteration of my business isn't being run from that place the same way. So I was I know how to do that. I've been in that. But because it's grown so much more and we have a bigger team and we have responsibilities, and I really love that idea of being in flow and come up with this idea, go, and I resisted planning things and actually making it easier for me. I really resisted it for so long. And, what came back, the feedback from the team were like, we need to slow down. We want to spend like 3 weeks getting it right, then like 1 week fast and half doing it. And I'm like, oh my God, these people really care. And I've been the one that's been like, actually, because I'm like, no, I want to be on the fly and do it like this. And they're like, don't work like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, and what's interesting is the more I have kind of the planning of things in place is giving me more space. Like I'm planning things, I'm a bit busy at the moment, but we literally are switching off our computers on the 22nd. I'm going to Mexico, turning off the computer. It won't come back on until the 4th of January. Like nothing, nothing for 2 full weeks off. And that's not just me, it's my husband, it's our entire team. We're like, we are off. But so we're all like, okay, with right now, we're like, let's get stuff done because things need to happen. But on the flip side, it'll be more, we'll have that spaciousness. And during that space, that's when my other ideas come in and I'll be like, oh. Then they're like, oh no, she's back.
She's back. She's back. She's back from vacation and she's more on fire and
into that flow.
Yeah. But so important. It's so important. I think if there's anything with all of my clients, and I work with a lot of, CEOs, kind of big business humans, creatives, and I'm always saying, take the downtime. Take the downtime, create the space for meditation. You will enter into flow so much easier. So, yeah.
And, that's spot on because this year, I've like meditated more than I've ever done in my entire life. And it's like now I just can't miss it in a day. I'm like, I just seem to wake up earlier and do it, and then it's done. You don't really, it's been amazing.
Yeah, I concur. I sit now for an hour in the morning, which that was not the case for me. I mean, I've always, to my clients, I've been like, meditate. But, I was a 20-minute here, 15 minutes there, sometimes half an hour. But the hour I really sink into this delicious space. It's, and I feel it throughout my whole day and my week. And I really feel it when I don't, so.
Exactly. And it's like, for me, it's been really coming back to tending to myself, my own heart, tending to creating this peace and this connection. And then when we have that, it then, reverberates into everything, whether it's the work, like our relationship, my friendships, all of that.
Yeah. Tending to the heart. That's the biggest, right? I mean, and healing from the space of the heart. I think for myself, being a psychotherapist and working in such a cerebral way with my clients and really going, no, we always have to go back to the heart. I mean, it's all connected. We know this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And the heart is like the little transmuter of it all, like feeling it and just... Yeah, it's been just magical.
Yeah. Oh, I've got so many questions for you. Well, speaking of, and I didn't know I was going to ask you this, but again, you and I talked about flow in the beginning. As far as healing, what in your path has been really transformative in your own healing and doing kind of deep work on yourself?
So, what's been I literally have done so many things. But what I find and what I found over the time is that one, taking the space to give yourself time to look. And it does, like the thing doesn't actually matter. That's my whole thing. It's like there's so many roads that will lead to it, but actually it's like the job is just shining the light on what's in the unconscious or the shadow, or just shine where we don't give ourselves the time to do it. We're just going to keep repeating. So in the last interesting, in like the last year or so, I've kind of stepped away from working with lots of people. I've been specifically working with one, and he actually isn't healing. He's not a healer, which I absolutely love. It's what it is just a sounding board for waiting for me to see what's coming up and being presented right in front of me. So I haven't been spending, as I did in the past, a lot of time like looking backwards. Yeah. It's more like what's being presented right now to me, and where is this, how do I unravel and change this, or not even change it, but work through it and let it go. So that's been amazing. But I've done so many different things. Like, for example, I love anything to do with movement. So whether it was like 5 rhythms or dance, I've done a lot of holotropic breath work over the years that I absolutely loved. But for me, and this is part of the conversation I've had with some people, is often people can stay in the story of the trauma as opposed to transmute it into joy and move to the next place with it. It's like, oh, that happened. Here I am shining the light. Next, like goodbye, like where am I evolving from it? So between holotropic breath, I also did a lot of work, and we used to do it with mandalas and sacred geometry, and making sand mandalas like the Buddhist monks in these amazing settings with some the amazing facilitator, and I just adored that. And then I've done yoga and journaling and all the different kinesiology with Reiki crystals. I went the whole gamut to get back around to, I just have to watch what's unfolding right in front of me, and it's and work from there. But it's been, I think the biggest thing is whether and not even giving yourself the space to take away from your life. I think this is for me. Like this year I was on 2 yoga retreats, and they're just a gift for me. And I always come away feeling with more clarity about what's going on. It's just this being able to kind of see. That's been a really big one for me, is especially, when you see it, then it no longer is kind of bother you anymore.
Right. Yeah. I had a woman by the name of Krista Rauschenberg on 2 episodes ago, and she does Akashic Records, and something she really talked about is, energy doesn't bite back, even the scariest traumatic spaces. And of course, there's that part of me that knows from a clinical perspective, yes, PTSD and somebody being flooded can be extremely intense to experience. But again, softening and going into those access points so we can feel the energy and know actually that the energy won't bite back. But doing it, and to your point, I'm going to just kind of reflect back some of the things getting into the body. This has been, for me, 2021 has been all about somatic experiencing, movement, and how to access these kind of shadow spaces in that way and bring real presence, as you were saying, not needing to go, in my daily, as to your point, I'm not seeing any practitioners right now, and I'm just kind of on my own journey of healing. But the somatic movement, I don't know if you're familiar with Michaela Boehm, but she does something called nonlinear movement. Oh my goodness, check it out. Yes.
I just love anything to do with dance or movement.
It is truly, it just, but again, bringing the presence to what you're going through in the daily versus having to live in the space, which I think sometimes therapy, even though it's important to revisit these past painful spaces, but always staying in the talking and living in the past so much. And as you're saying, not necessarily transmuting it into a space of joy. And I find from my daily intentional practices of body movement, meditation, anything that needs to arise in the day is going to arise in one of those present day practices. Has been profound.
And so profound. And it's like when some rather than, I think now I'm just, if something comes up, I'll just be like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, okay. And then it's like, right, well, what needs to happen for this to change or to move beyond it, to grow, to learn from it.
Yeah, I was listening to, there's a book by Emily Nagoski. The book's called Come As You Are, and it's all about sex. And something that she talks about, which humans don't do, is completing the cycles. So when our nervous system becomes really activated or a trauma becomes activated, we actually need to complete the cycle. And so that cycle is really feeling it, letting it have a full life. And she goes on to talk about animals when they go through something traumatic and their body goes through this full completion of, like, they'll shake it out or they'll do something to kind of, and I went, this is it. This is really, yeah, which again, back to your point, I'm so jazzed talking to you. Back to your point, it's why also dipping into all the modalities, and really tapping into, whether it's therapy, kundalini, somatic stuff, again, I think we need a variety of things to kind of complete the cycle.
For sure. And I'm just laughing because I have my little puppy here, and every time something goes on with him, he does this massive shake, like, and he just like lies down. He's like, fine now,
right?
And yeah. Just like, I just watch him. I'm like, Ken, look at this. Like, look at him.
Yeah.
And he's just lying there relaxed. I'm like, he basically has been the biggest teacher for us since we got him. I'm like, he loves nature. He's curious. He'll go run. He'll have fun. He chills out a lot. I'm like, we just need to copy him.
Right? Well, because I think at the end of the day, we forget that we're animals,
Totally.
Right? I mean, it's just kind of, it's a big one that I think we sometimes disconnect from. Okay, I don't want to miss the point of your kind of expertise and all of the things that you do. Oh, look, my dog wanted to enter. After we were talking about that, Lou was like, I'm here. I'm ready to enter the podcast. So you do a lot of things. And I mean, you're an author, Feng Shui master. You coach women in stepping into their power. You are a shaman. I mean, so I'm just going to let you rip in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, almost how these things came to be, and then, how you approach working with humans.
Tapping into that flow. And what's been really struck me most recently is, in my 20s, I was working in my parents' business. I was running it. I wore black every day. I'm here in my luminous pink jumper today. I wore black every day. It was like I was going to my own funeral. I was not in a happy place. But, spirit, God, universe works in very magical, mysterious ways. And my first yoga teacher came in to that place, my first life coach, my first astrologer, person introduced me to astrology. And they were all customers. And for some reason, I was drawn to these people and ended up sitting in front of the life coach one day going, I want a session with you. I don't even know what you do. And she asked me one question, what do you want? And I cried for an hour. I could not answer the question. I could tell her what my mom wanted for me, my dad wanted for me, what I thought I should want, but I could not answer that question. And it was at that time that I would have been out partying every night. I blamed my unhappiness on a relationship. I left the relationship. Then I went crazy with drinking and it was just a mess. And that's when my first yoga teacher came in the door. And I was like, you teach yoga? When's the next class? He goes, tonight at 7:30. And I was like, I'll be there. And he rolled his eyes to heaven. He's like, this one's not coming here. She's looking at my clothes. I know she's a total freaking party animal. And I arrived at the class, sat on the mat. I arrived at the class late, which is my kind of signature yoga move, is always being late from my class, running in the door. For yoga. I sat at the class and I said he said, close your eyes. And he goes, and this is an hour for you. And I'm not joking you, those words echoed into every cell of my body. The tears rolled down my face. And I was like, I don't know what's just happened, but I need to be here on this mat. Never missed another one of his classes. Even though I used to go and party after it, I'd be so energized after yoga. I was in my 20s. It doesn't happen now. So essentially what happened was I was getting all these little nudges from the universe, like, you can't change your life, you can't change your life. And I ended up taking space. And this is why I went to a yoga retreat in Italy. And on that retreat, I just knew I need to quit, I need to leave, something needs to change. And I remember looking at the yoga teacher and going, God, she looks really happy. I want to be like her. Like, literally, I was like, I want to be like her. And I came back, and I remember upstairs, my parents had been away for a long time, for a couple of weeks. I'd be looking after everything. And my mum goes, I think you need to leave. And I said, out of my mouth, and this has happened several times in my life where I did not know I was going to say the thing, and it came out. And I was like, I'm moving to India to become a yoga teacher. And she was just like, what? Now, putting this into perspective, I've had one yoga class a week for like a few months. So It wasn't like I was like this hardcore yogi. And I basically quit everything, like absolutely everything. Rolled up my car, got rid of my apartment, like everything was gone. I had one rucksack and I moved to India. And what really dawned on me this week was the fact that, like, I teach people how to, change their lives through changing their environment. I went through a very dramatic version of that by literally taking myself out of Ireland, out of my home, to India. And that change of environment changed me. And now with the Feng Shui, I do that, but you don't have to move house or move to India or get rid of everything, essentially. And the Feng Shui came around like kind of crazy full circle way, as in I got my first books about it when I was 15. So I was always interested in it. My family are not into Feng Shui or any of this world, really. But I was just fascinated by Feng Shui and had tried to get them to hire a consultant, like, to come to their business. Like, it was just something that really, like, it touched my soul. And actually that life coach, who's now a good friend of mine for so long, I remember saying to her, when I got into the Feng Shui, I said, I found the Feng Shui books I got when I was 15. And she goes, you know what? Your soul knows what you're meant to do. You just don't. Like, you just don't. And I was like, oh my God, like, I just knew. And like, fast forward, coming back to Ireland, starting teaching yoga, doing sound healing. Like, I had an amazing spiritual experience in India and Nepal. And then I came back and everyone was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm moving to this city. I'm going to teach yoga and do this sound healing. And everyone was like, yeah, fine. She's mad. And I was totally mad, but I did it. And that's a time when I was still in that mode of really just, getting up in the morning and trusting that everything was going to work out. And I would like meet someone on the street and they would like say, like, one woman I met at an event, and then I met her, bumped into the street, and she's like, oh, you do meditation? I broke my arm and I can't do this meditation circle. Can you run that circle? And from there, I ended up getting a job doing sound healing in this special needs home and doing that. And it was just like the next thing that was presented. It was really amazing. And in that journey, I moved into a new apartment. And I moved into the apartment, and as I was coming in the door, I said to my flatmate, who actually happened to be my yoga teacher at the time and was moving in with me, I said, I'm not moving in here until I meet my husband. And she was like, yeah, right. Like, whatever. And I'm like, I'm deadly serious. So I moved in and I was just like, Feng Shui, I'm going to Feng Shui my bedroom. I'm going to set it all up. And as the way the world worked, I'd set that intention. I moved into this new place. And not very long afterwards, I met my now husband, Ken, and came here to this house up in the country that I had. One day I found a journal a few months later after I'd moved in saying, I live in a beautiful house in the country. I was like, I never even wanted to live in the country. And now I'm like, I live in a beautiful house in the country. So I come here and walked around and I was like, he's Feng Shui this place. Like, he had like second dressing.
That's okay.
Whatever's going on out there. So he had like a second dressing table, he had a second dressing gown, he had 2 bedside tables, 2 lamps, and I was like, he's Feng Shui this. So we both, he'd been interested in his 20s, he'd been going through his own journey and was like, logically, like, from that masculine, like, linear brain, was like, obviously, if my mind and I feel like a mess, like if my home is a mess, it's a mirror. Like it's the, and I was like, yes, that's so true. So he had really it resonated with him. So once we moved in together here, I said, I want to do this feng shui. And when the students were ready, the teacher appears, 2 feng shui masters came to Ireland, like not just 1, 2. I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I had a very busy practice working with people. Like I wasn't looking for a new job, like our new career. I was very happy and busy but we did the feng shui here. And not only had I had all the women asking me, my single spiritual friends going like, how did you meet Ken? There are no spiritual men in Ireland and you have just met one. Like, what did you do? And I was like, well, I did this feng shui. And, obviously I'd been doing all this bit. So it was just kind of fun. Yeah. And then I said, I'm doing this feng shui. And Ken goes, I want to do it too. So we both did it. And we came back and did our house. And just life got even easier and got better and richer. And it was very visibly more abundant. Our life was, in terms of like Ken got like his career kind of took off. I got a 6-figure windfall that helped us like finish the house, like kind of things that were like, whoa. In putting this in perspective, like 6 months earlier, I was cycling around Dublin on a bicycle, now in a country house in the country with a new car. Everyone's like, what's happened to your life? And I'm like, it's feng shui. And so that kind of was the rolling of it. And Ken and I stood in the kitchen one day talking about our honeymoon. And we're like, well, we want to go to India. And I was like, yeah, let's go to India. But we can't go to India for like a week or 2 weeks or a month. It's too short. And this is because I've been there and spent like months at a time there. And it's like, I'm like, quality is better than quantity, but like the time it's the journey being there. So then we were like, well, let's just go. So we headed off to India, and I let go of my business. I was like, I'm going to do something online. I had no idea what it was going to be. I had no idea what the iteration of it was. But people started asking me about feng shui. And, now we've worked with thousands of people all over the world, feng shuiing their homes. And essentially what it's been, and what I see feng shui is as this opportunity to change your life through changing your home. Because when we change the energy of our homes to line up, it's like what we do with feng shui is we bring your house into energetic alignment with nature. And that's when flow happens, when things are in balance. Most houses are not built balanced and intentionally like they could be. And even if I'm working with a house from scratch with a new person, I'm like, it's really hard to even get that perfect, but when we can always balance it. So that's kind of like the fastest version of the story.
I mean, I have so much to say, and I just feel lit up. Okay, so wow. I mean, I want to go to your point when you said you would say these things would just fly out of your mouth in your life. Mm-hmm. And you didn't know that they were going to come, but that would catapult you into these new spaces, these new kind of paradigm shifts in your life. And we don't have to majorly go into it, but I just thought that was such a beautiful, that in itself, because there's always, in the new age world, excuse me, there's so much around, what we say is the creation of our life. Or the thoughts are the creation of our life. And even those, but there's that element of when I'm listening to you, and I want the listeners to tune into this, the element of risk as well, where there were many moments where you're just like, not sure what I'm doing, gonna say goodbye to this job, gonna plunge, right? But still sort of there was this element of co-creation with, as you were saying, source energy, the universe, and really landing into these spots. And again, I want to kind of pinpoint, but it flowed. And it's not to say that maybe you didn't have hard times or maybe there weren't some moments. I don't, we could go more into that, but there was an element of things just started lining up. And man, it's so much what I want people to hear, because I think a lot of times we fight life. We fight life, or we
Yes.
just, it's like, oh no, there's no way that I could do this because I don't have the training, or I don't have this. And, and it's not, I
Yeah.
always want to be mindful. I think it's so important to be mindful, when we come from some spaces currently now, us from a space of privilege, right? That sometimes when you're in such a dire financial space, it can feel like, oh, no way. No way am I going to take this plunge, or how would I have the money to do this thing? I'm barely keeping the lights on. But still, what I heard in your life, there were these risks.
There were them. The other day, my sisters live overseas and they're both back in Ireland right now. And yesterday or Monday, we were in Dublin City, and I was just walking around the streets that I, taught yoga classes for €5 and a lunchtime gig, and kind of really back in those streets where I'd spent so much time at the start of that like holistic business. And we were in this building, and I said, girls, I just want to show you this room. And they were like, what? And I was like, this is where I came from, on my hometown. I drove from Galway to Dublin to do a Christmas fair with some of the things I bought in India. So I bought like blankets and singing bowls and art and different things. And I had to do a Christmas fair. And that morning, my mum knocked on the door. So at the time, I was like at home with my parents. My mum knocked on the door and she says, your dad's Jeep is the keys are there, so you can use that. And I was like, thank you. She said, do you want money? And I said, no. I had €50 to my name, and Nicola, my sister, had been in India and had bought one of the necklaces that I bought, was selling off me. All she had was a €50 note. Like, it was €15, but she was like, oh no, she knew I hadn't a penny. So she gave me the €50, and I drove from Galway to Dublin. It's a 2.5 hour drive, and there's tolls on the way. So I had the €50. Dad's Jeep had half a tank of fuel. So, which wasn't going to get me all the way. So we had the €50 and the tolls. And by the time I got to Dublin, I had like probably €10 left. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. And I was doing this workshop in the morning that I'd already like paid the rent for, and I paid the stand for the Christmas fair. So I did the workshop, and this lady bought a singing bowl off me. Someone else bought a blanket. And I said, I'm going to do a stand at this Christmas fair. I had no idea what was ahead of me, but I went up to the stand and I stood there. And honestly, I don't know, like other people at their Christmas stands were looking at me going, what is she selling? Because it was like a magnet. It got to a stage where there was 3 deep at my stall. It was just me, and my friend came, and I parked my car kind of semi-illegally. I parked the Jeep semi-illegally, thinking I'll go back and be able to move it after I'd set it up, like as a temporary loading place. But I didn't have a chance because people kept coming buying. So I literally threw the keys at my friend and like, find Dad's Jeep and put it in the car parking space. Come back, and please bring me something to eat. And I walked away that day making €2,500.
Wow.
And it was like, and that was, that kind of helped me move to Dublin. I was able to buy like a Christmas present for my family, fill my dad's tank, give him the money back for the fuel. It was so and I think also with me, maybe it's I just don't think about the future. It's just like, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. Where's the moment? Don't worry about like what's going to happen. Because if you go there, I'd have never done it. Like, I would never have done it. And, Mom was like, that morning, she knew I hadn't, she didn't even know I had the €50. I think she knew I had nothing. She was like, she's not even going to get there.
But to your point, I mean, from talking to you, you're a plunger. I mean, you plunge, you go, you do the damn thing. But again, and trusting, and your life is a testament of it sort of just continues to open up. And you weren't somebody who came from these huge means and the space to create where you're at now. So yeah, I think it's really important for people to hear. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And there's and then some days if I'm having a rough day or something's going on, I might just Think of the 50 euros, Patricia. Like, seriously, just think of that. Like, if you've got through it, like, you know.
Think of the 50 euros. Yes. And the half tank of gas. Absolutely. Okay, well, it would behoove me not to ask you about Feng Shui for people listening. If you have any, I'm going to kind of like spin back. What are some basics? If somebody, I saw on your website, you offer some sort of free master classes or different things.
Yeah.
But if someone was just like, okay, I'm tuning in, Patricia, what can I do in my home that would, and I will just preface this, my friends who know me know I'm number one psycho about a clean house. And everything has a certain kind of, I would say, to me, flow and openness. And what I always say, you know, I used to think it was more, it probably still is, a coping mechanism when I feel internally chaotic. I'm like, clean. But also everything, aesthetically, the cleanliness, the organization, really, I think also it just helps me flow. It helps my mind stay open. I can do the creative work. Clutter does not work for me. So yeah, I'd love to hear, that was my personal aside, just for people, what they could do.
So the first thing, I love like what you've talked about, and I think they're all really important, like good practices for your environment. But I would say like one of my favorite exercises to do is like, oftentimes we just take for granted our physical environment. Like we take for granted that it is having an impact on us, on our energy, on our motivation, our creativity, on our sleep, on our bank account. Like it is always impacting us because it has its own energy imprint. And if you want to have more information on that, there's a quiz on my website you can go to kind of do the quiz to check out the different house types. But I love this exercise called Fresh Eyes. And I want you kind of to pretend that you're walking to your house for the first time and just see the things that kind of bug you. Like start just like kind of even like amp up like your visual, your audio, your sensory. Because anything that's like broken, not working, that's kind of has a bit of a friction point is going to be creating that not just in you, but it mirrors back into your life as well and in that part of your home. So in terms of like the openness and the flow, you know, if you had an empty home, it could still be bad feng shui. So it's not necessarily about the feng shui, and that's like one of the big misconceptions that's out there is that it's about like where you put your couch, where you put your bed. Like a lot, and anything you've ever heard about feng shui, about the toilet shouldn't be here, the door here. If you have heard that and your house has that, just realize there's 100 other amazing things you could do with feng shui, and don't focus on that. I think you're doomed because it's a very, very broad, beautiful practice that can help and support you in so many areas of your life. So the fresh eyes is really great. The next thing I would say to you is, with that, just when you do move around, just look at the places that things haven't been moving for a while. So is there some cupboard that is just like full of stuff that hasn't been moved or looked at or is being used or relevant to your life right now? You know, I like to ask people to like make your home a vision board for your future, not a shrine or temple to your past. So, you know, if it's relationships you want to call in, get some art of couples that look like the kind of relationship that you want to be in. If it's a bigger family, get some pictures of like families. And it could be like a family of animals. You know, having one client who just got this beautiful painting or photo of like the lion, like a whole lion family. And you're like, oh my God, like, and that's in her family area. Nobody's going to know. Yeah. But for you, it'll just like mirror back. So what you're kind of like, this is what I want to call in, this is what I want to do. So that's a really nice, simple way of using your environment to support you with the art. And look at the art on your walls and go, what does it mean? Who did I get it from? Why do I have it? And does it represent where I'm going? Really simple, really nice, and very, very, very powerful around the space. And just on that, when it comes to like feng shui in terms of like how I see it and how I perceive it, with all of the houses and all of the people I've worked with over the years, Feng Shui is acupuncture for your home. So it is a way of rebalancing the energetics of your home. It's not the visible. And this is what's really being kind of fed into our consciousness about what Feng Shui is. It's like, it's the aesthetics, it's the visible. But for me, it's all about the invisible. So it's what we do energetically. So we work with the 5 elements and we bring the space into this energetic balance and harmony. And when your home is in balance energetically, you start to become more in balance. Everybody starts getting on better. Things start flowing, like you come into this rhythm of flow and you tap into that flow that I've talked about. And that's where and that's why I do this, because I want people who are tapping into this flow and allowing it to be just easier. And many times our home can be the source of the sabotage, and it may not be something that happened when you were 10, or it may not be something you did wrong, or it's your fault, and that's where I'm kind of like, I like shake things up a little bit for people, because they're like, you mean, I mean personal development, don't you do it? I'm like, no, it's so important. It's amazing. I love it myself personally. And I encourage it because it's going to make your life even better, especially if your house is supportive.
Ooh, wow. Okay, going back to the 5 elements, could you, because that was really something that went ding inside of me when I was listening to you. When you say you bring in the 5 elements to somebody's home, I want to talk about 2 things, that and then the art. That's a really interesting one. When you say you bring in the 5 elements, how do you do that?
So when we work with a client, I don't know if you've had your natal chart done, like astrology.
Yes.
When you've had your natal chart done. Yes. Yeah. So when you do your natal chart, basically we create a natal chart for your home. People don't know this about Feng Shui. They just don't know. And they're like, oh, you're just going to come in and feel the wind and the vibe. And I'm like, no. It's like astrology. You send me the date of birth, like when your house is built, we look at the compasses. It's this huge calculation and pretty complex and confusing. And that's where there's this line with Feng Shui of like why everyone knows about like, the bed or the couch or the thing, because it's very easy to understand. But then there's this line of like, and this is where it gets really complex, but actually where the magic really happens with Feng Shui. So we create a kind of basically a natal chart for someone's house. And then I'm able to see where the imbalances are. So it's like, oh, you're having fertility issues. Oh, that's this, and you're sleeping in that bedroom. Okay, we need to balance that. Or you're having health issues or financial issues, or you're single, you can't find love. Whatever it is, like it's written on the walls energetically. Like when we look at someone's house, I'm like, And then even when someone's working with me to find a new house, the houses they come to me with, I'm like, oh man, look at this. This is a mirror of like who you are.
Wow.
Like right now.
Yeah.
Is this what you want? And I'm like, okay, well, let's look for better or change. And I always, with that instance, I'm like, let's Feng Shui where you are now, and then call in a higher vibration house. So the 5 elements, we work with our fire element, water, metal, earth, and wood. This is where sometimes people think Feng Shui is going to be really hard, knock walls, change things. I'm like, no, like sometimes you just need to bring a plant into a certain area. The thing is, it's actually unique to your house. Like the acupuncturist is only going to put needles in you, and we could have all the same complaints, but he is going to put the needles in different points because they're going to be relevant to you specifically. So it's unique to you. So it could be bringing in metal element, which would be literally there's artwork with metal or silver, not necessarily expensive silver, but like something like that metallic kind of furniture. Or it could be bringing in like something red. Like I've had clients, like Talmar brought in a red quilt to her bedroom specifically. She kind of got a purpley one for her bedroom, and her son won a $70,000 scholarship like the next day.
Wow.
She's like, Patricia. And I was like, oh, that's the career area. So it's been, for me, the fun part with this is that like oftentimes it's like a woman who comes in, she's on her journey, she wants to, move, and something needs to change. And not really sure. So let me just use my hat. Like, let's just do the house. And then work on the house, and then like the husband gets a promotion, the kids get the colleges they want to get into, then she's like, he's happy, she's happy, I'm going to be happy. Like it's this whole ripple effect when we work with the house, which is like, that's a real joy to see, because you're just like, everybody's winning and everybody's in the flow. It's not just the person who's like, I put it in and it's just for me. It's like, no, everybody wins.
Everybody benefits from it.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, well, to your point earlier, I'm going to go back to the art in a second, but environment is everything. And I lived in Los Angeles for 13 years, and very much was like, I'm a city person in my city house, and, I had a little bit of nature in my backyard. And now I live in Ojai, which is this kind of mountainous valley, sacred, I don't even know what you want to call. Ojai is magical, but my environment has changed me so much. And it was interesting because I remember, everybody's heard this quote, and John Kabat-Zinn saying, everywhere you go, there you are, right? So, but I sometimes disagree with that, because yes, everywhere you go, there you are. You take your shit with you everywhere, right? All of your, any of your neurotic, we don't need to go into all of that. Yeah. But also I would argue against it a little bit, because yes, everywhere you go, there you are. But also when you shift either where you live, or as you're saying, shift the things that you bring into your home and the 5 elements, and really looking at the art on the walls. So again, I go back to environment is so important. And with art, my partner and I, it is the last thing in our house. We still look at the walls, and we have some art up, but we've been very particular because to your point, we just don't want to get like, oh, this mass produced, you go to this, I don't know, artnet.com, and it could be a cool piece for everybody, whatever, but really getting things that specifically when you look at it, it evokes something in me. But I am getting to the point now that the walls are feeling too barren, and I'm ready for, to add that kind of spice. Yes,
exactly. And then like when it comes to those, I would definitely recommend people having blank walls over art that they don't feel really, really resonates with them. Like that is just so important. And like behind me, I have like little pieces on the wall. I've got one that's like trust your instinct from one of my clients. Then I've got stay weird, just to remind me, in case I forget. And this print my dad bought me years ago when we were on holidays in Italy, and a client made this one for me.
Oh, I see that.
And then I have a unicorn up behind that I just absolutely loved when I seen it. I just literally sent an email about a few days earlier about being a rainbow unicorn or something. And then I walk into the shop and I'm like, there's my rainbow unicorn. But most recently, we just actually commissioned a piece of art for our front hall. And as you come in the front door, it's this gold leaf with the cherry blossom that kind of like comes out at you. And I got a lot of messages about cherry blossoms in this one particular day. And I'd left that wall blank for so long. And then by the end of the day, I was like on Instagram, and this lady followed me, and I went back to see. And I look up, and there she is after painting this amazing, spectacular painting with cherry blossom. And on a podcast interview, on another session with a lady, someone else, basically cherry blossoms is the whole theme of the whole day. And then I come on, I'm like, I know the painting, and that's what I want, is to go on that wall. And I see it, it happens to be in our prosperity area where I walk in, but people come in, they see it, and they go, wow. And it's that essence of like blossoming, flourishing, just beauty. It reminds me of my time in Japan. Like it just has so much meaning and significance. It's also, we got from like where we had a really successful launch. It's connected to just a really joyous time. And so, it's really important. And when you do that and look at the pieces on your wall and you feel good about them, you'll certainly see shifts.
Right? Yeah. 100%. So I think, again, for anybody listening, and it's also about making, subtle shifts. And to your point, you don't have to go in and knock out walls and do a whole overhaul or have a lot of money. That's always something that I want to express in this show, is to those who don't, but looking at things that really energetically, you're like, This reminds me of a time that doesn't bring me a lot of joy, or this piece feels really stagnant. And, one of my friends was the editor at Marie Kondo. Yeah, I almost blanked at her name. But yeah, so obviously, and I was getting from all these, it's very important to kind of, what doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. And
for sure.
It's kind of like everything in life. If that friendship doesn't give you joy, time to move on. It's like a pretty basic tenet in life.
Get rid of it or for me, especially for homes, like, some people could have had a strange reason for moving in, and I'm like, no, gotta get rid of that energy of that and get you into falling in love with the space and being grateful for it, because then they'll start to support you more. So there's a lot with the space that we can get to kind of have a lot of fun with.
Yes. Well, Patricia, I want to be mindful of your time. And I'm going to go into some of the rapid fire questions if you're okay with that.
Ready to go.
She's ready to go. Okay, my first question always is, do you feel like you're more of a Beyonce or Rihanna woman, or neither?
Neither.
Okay. I like that.
Not just me.
Yeah, no, it's good. No, it's just a curious thing for me. Okay, next question. What do you feel your purpose is to be on this planet, and why do you think human beings are on this earth? Because it's quite the experience.
My purpose is to raise the vibration of the planet. Just raise the energy, show people, bring people up to inspire and shine light.
Okay.
And why do we think we're here?
Yeah.
To experience the magic of life. This place is magic, pure magic. And as we just touched on the very beginning, talking about how it can take things so serious. And I was like, I like calling Feng Shui fun shui. We're on Zoom, the rainbows outside, the water, we just don't take time to see the magic. And I think we're here to experience that magic and really tap into even more of it.
Yeah.
And I help people do that.
I feel your magic and your fun energy so much in this interview. Wonderful. Now, sometimes this question throws people off, but I think it's an important one to ask. What do you think happens after death?
I think it is a magical, even more magical experience. Death is something that I'm really excited about. I've already discussed with Ken my funeral. Everyone has to wear a colour. There'll be a big dance party.
Yes.
But I did a whole week of holotropic breathwork around death. And we met our psychopomp, the person who's meant to bring you through. And it was when I got there, we kind of got there, and I was like, I don't want to go, because I'm going to stay here. And I remember just on this is something I like talking about, death. Okay. But I remember a friend of mine talking, he was an amazing Qigong master and a Shaolin monk. And he was saying, when we're conceived in the womb, we're in the womb and it's dark, and we just don't know what's going to come when we pop out. We've no idea what's ahead of us as a teeny baby coming in. And it's the same with death. We've no idea. And we've been birthed into this amazing life. So I think it's even better.
Wow. That is quite the answer that I have not heard yet on the show. Thank you for that. Yes. Very last one. What's something either a mentor, teacher, a lot of times people that I interview, they will have a saying, right next to their laptop as what's something that's just kind of profoundly reverberates in your mind's eye, or?
I just always be the change you want to see in the world. Mm-hmm. Just be it, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I had a lot of people being quite cranky around me at the gym when I first came back, and I was like, man, this is too hard. We need to change this.
Yeah.
So I've started a whole new good news revolution with them. And they, rather than me like, any news, it's like, any good news. Now they're like jumping at me to tell me their good news, or they're laughing, going like, what's the good news today? Or they're nervous because they're waiting for me to ask and they haven't thought of it yet. And it's just like changed the whole energy of these much older women I happen to be at the gym.
Yes. Oh, but that's such
be the change.
Be the change. And what a beautiful, just, you didn't go out there. It wasn't this like huge, massive project that you had to take on. It was just this little, but profound. And that really, that cognitive shift for other humans of what's the good news? Because man, humans love to talk about the bad news. We love, all the negative.
Some people think I'm asking them a trick question, because I kind of ask people now at the grocery store, at the bookshop the other day, he was like, huh?
He was like, what do you mean the good news? The world's ending. Yeah.
The woman in the grocery store like literally burst out laughing. Like she started like rolling around laughing at the question. And me and my husband were like, what? And then I was like, well, at least she laughed. Like she didn't give us any good, but she had a good laugh.
She had a good laugh. Even if she was laughing at you guys, she had a good laugh. Oh, Patricia, thank you so much for coming on. You're such a joy. And
thank you.
And would you like to tell the audience how they can find you, any upcoming offerings, juicy stuff?
You can find me at patricialohan.com, and I've just created a new course. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but I have just created a new mini course, a free mini course, a walkthrough of my own house. That will gives like all feng shui tips and shows like good feng shui rooms and bad feng shui rooms. It's not a perfect house. So that's coming out in the new year. But also there's the quiz. So on the, if there's something, if you want to call in love, there's some information on the website. If you want to call in money, there's some there. Improve your business. That's the nice thing. Feng Shui covers so many different parts of your life. So come to patricialohan.com, grab one of those goodies, and keep an eye out for the mini course, because that's really fun.
Cool. I will keep an eye out for the mini course as I'm looking at the different art and spaces in my house going, okay, what would Patricia do? Thank you.
You're so welcome. It was an absolute pleasure.
Hi, friends. If you've been enjoying Spaces Between, please take a moment to subscribe, and leaving a review is the cherry on top. Thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you next week.